How do you make a movie about a friend who is freaking good at everything? Not only is David Shevlino one of the best painters ever, he's also a terrific musician and an absurdly nice guy. He managed to teach himself filmmaking and made a very successful How to Paint DVD. And just when I thought my cup of jealousy couldn't overflow any faster, I caught David in a remarkable feat of parallel parking right outside the Rosenfeld gallery the day of his art opening.
And you call that an adequate job of parallel parking? Great show, David.
Thank you.
All right, now move and I'll get your painting.
Okay.
There we go, that's the same guy.
This show is mostly figurative painting, which is a departure from a lot of my previous exhibitions in that those tended to be cityscapes and landscapes. I think I developed a love of the figure from very early on. Even before I got into art school, I spent a lot of time looking at classical art, Renaissance, Baroque painting, and developed a love of the figure. And that continued as I went through the academy, where the figure is very much an important part of the curriculum there.
I also went to the Pennsylvania Academy and can attest to the countless hours we were forced to gaze upon the wonders of the naked human figure.
I quickly noticed that most of David's paintings had figures that were partially clothed at best.
Now, the fact that some of them are partially nude in everyday poses, I wanted to find a context where I could include the figure in ways that made it more approachable to people, as opposed to just a sort of straightforward nude. I like doing that too, and there are one or two paintings in here that are just nudes. But I also enjoy the fact that I can take a figure from some everyday setting, like a figure standing near a pool, and explore that as a figure painting within a modern day context.
David, your paintings, some of them are frankly very erotic. These nude bodies, both women and men, but particularly the women. And is that important to you?
I don't know if that I consciously think about them being erotic, but then maybe it's subconscious. I love painting the figure, and I especially love painting the female figure. I certainly can't hide that.
But it almost seems like your brush is caressing their soft and ample flesh.
That's interesting. You said that. I didn't. I love painting flesh. I just love skin and flesh. I love the way it looks under different kinds of light, under natural light, under artificial light. This was a very direct study done from life. I don't really think of this particular painting as being overtly erotic. I think of it as it being a more conventional, straightforward nude study. Because I think of myself as being very painterly. I really delight in flesh and the color of flesh and flesh tones and the texture of flesh.
The words painterly, loose, and tight are commonly used by artists to describe the look and style of a painting. Tight work tends to be carefully rendered so that the painting's brushstrokes are hidden and the texture of the paint is de-emphasized. Loose work is the opposite. You can see the brushstrokes and the paint has a dynamic and living presence. The career trajectory of many famous artists from art history is tight when young, increasingly painterly as they age and gain mastery. David fits this pattern.
Initially, I had a pretty tight traditional classical style when I was at the Academy in the early 80s, which started out with a lot of emphasis on drawing. last 5, 6 years, they've gotten a lot more loose, and I'd say as painterly as they've ever been throughout my career now. I like exploring with paint. I like the way paint sits on a surface. I like blurring the line between abstraction and realism. I'm the kind of painter who likes to progress and to push myself forward and try different things. I tend to get bored if I'm not evolving or changing.
David's painterly approach seems particularly valid in his paintings of males fighting. You can feel the energy and movement of these figures.
It's a very direct, alla prima, wet into wet painting technique. I was trying to achieve a certain sense of spontaneity and movement in the paint, trying to create some kind of a rhythm between the figures and the way that they interact with one another, and also the way the paint interacts with the very surface of the panel. In a metaphorical way, there's kind of an underlying subtext of a sort of inner struggle, I think, with myself.
Is there any kind of Catholic guilt in any of these?
If there's any, it's extremely subconscious to the point where I'm not even aware of it.
Okay, well that means it must be there.
Yeah, well, it could be. I mean, yes, I was raised Catholic. You know, there might be some paintings that would be, or some painters that would probably be even more bold and have her completely nude or in some other kind of risque pose. First of all, I think that's kind of hitting somebody over the head. I think that's too blunt anyway, and I don't think that that's really sensual or sexy.
To me, what really gives this life is the way her right arm is posed. It's like so submissive, maybe? Indolent.
Indolent?
3 middle-aged guys talking about it. Okay, enough of this.
Incidentally, one of the greatest all-time paintings done in a tight style was Susanna and the Elders by Artemisia Gentileschi, and its subject was middle-aged guys gawking at an attractive, half-dressed female. And then it happened, just as a fighter waits for his opponent to give him an opening. A jealous documentary filmmaker hopes for a revealing remark from his subject. A remark that can be painfully probed and investigated.
So it was a big step for me to put together an exhibition where being able to sell the paintings wasn't the predominant factor or even a major factor at all, but just doing paintings or exhibiting paintings that I really wanted to do for myself.
Are you suggesting that Mr. Rosenfeld does not enjoy selling art? No,
I'm sure he enjoys selling art, but I think my sense is that the bottom line is not the predominant overriding factor with Richard, as it is with so many commercial art galleries that I've dealt with. I think Richard's far more interested in the work and its intrinsic quality, whereas so many of the galleries that I've been involved with, there was a lot of pressure in painting a certain kind of a subject so that I could sell it, and that got very tiring after a while and really impacted my artistic vision. So I feel very good and very proud of the work that I'm exhibiting here in this show.
Damn it, he slipped out of my snare. I was trying to get him in trouble with this dealer, but he made Richard seem like some kind of a saint. David truly is kind of a Renaissance man. His work is terrific. He really can do just about anything he sets his mind to. But on the other hand, I have special effects. Let's revisit his parallel parking.